This story, it's not just about a dirty cop. It's about the kind of quiet, deep-seated rot that settles into a community. The kind you think will never get cleaned out until one person, one elderly man, decides he's had enough of the disrespect, and the whole damn rotten structure comes crashing down. The air in Palmcrest County courtroom was thick, suffocating. You could almost taste the stale coffee and the desperation. And Officer Trevor Vancey was loving it. He was sitting up on the witness stand, a smile playing on his lips. You know, the kind of smile that says, "I already won, and there's nothing you can do about it." As he described the violent assault committed by the man in the defendant's chair, a 72-year-old retired history teacher named Walter Jennings, ADA Chad Hayes, with his cheap suit and his expensive haircut, was painting Walter as some kind of public menace, completely disrespecting law enforcement and, honestly, the public defender. Lena Chavez, she was drowning. She knew it. We all knew it was a done deal. What they failed to grasp, what they couldn't possibly imagine, was that Pops Jennings, the quiet man they were trying to railroad, wasn't just some random defendant, wasn't just some old guy who got mouthy in an alleyway. He was a federal asceta, material witness, and that sharply dressed figure who just slipped through the back doors. That wasn't just a late spectator. That was Special Agent Marcus Jennings, Civil Rights Division, Department of Justice, and Walter Jennings' son. Let me rewind a minute so you understand the stakes here. Walter, or Pops, sat there perfectly still. His spine rigid, not from age, but from decades of teaching high school history, you know. The kind of guy who commanded respect just by existing, his hands steady on his lap, wearing his only suit, looking more dignified than anyone else in that room. Especially Vance. And Vance was on stage, right? He was running his well-rehearsed routine. I was patrolling Southwood Station. High crime area, observed the defendant, acting suspiciously. Attempted to ascertain why he was lurking. Lena shot up. Objection, Your Honor. Lurking is prejudicial. And Judge Harriet Sloan, who looked like she'd seen enough nonsense to fill a library, just sighed. Sustained. Mr. Hayes, stick to the facts. But Vance continued to lie. Eyes wide with that false sincerity, he immediately became agitated. Shouting, pigs, harassment, things like that. I could smell alcohol on his breath. Walter just closed his eyes, his jaw tight, enduring the slander. Then came the big lie, the one that made the jury gasp. He shoved me hard, caught me off guard. I announced he was under arrest, and then he lunged at me. Tried to grab my service weapon. Of course, Vance said he had to use necessary force, a standard open-hand palm strike to the facial area to create distance. A palm strike that, as Lena managed to stammer out later, fractured Walter's orbital bone. Vance just shrugged. He was strong for his age, probably high on something, and the camera malfunctioned, naturally. Lena looked defeated. She had nothing. No video, no witnesses. Just the word of a decorated cop against an old man of color in a prejudiced county. Nothing further, Your Honor, she whispered, slumping back down. But the truth, oh, the truth was something else entirely, and it was simmering just beneath the surface. Walter was just walking to the corner store, his usual routine. Vance had rolled up and yelled, "Hey, old man, come here," when Walter, knowing his rights and his dignity, simply replied, "Good morning, officer. I'm just going to the store." Vance saw a challenge, not a citizen. He got out of his car and snarled, "I said, come here, boy." Walter, his voice as steady as his old oak desk, said, "I am not a boy, officer. I am a citizen." Am I being detained? That's what did it. That question, that lack of fear, that simple assertion of humanity made Vance see red. He didn't see a retired teacher. He saw a nail that needed to be hammered down. He drew back his hand, and he delivered a vicious, degrading, bone-cracking smack right across Walter's face. It echoed on the empty street. Walter crumpled, his glasses flying, and as Vance stood over him, he saw Walter's cell phone screen up was recording. That's when Vance stomped it, realized his body cam was still rolling, fumbled with it to malfunction it, and dragged the dazed man to his cruiser, radioing in a bogus resisting arrest charge. Pure arrogance. The defense calls Walter Jennings, Lena managed to say. But as Walter slowly rose and walked to the stand, that heavy, decisive thud hit the back doors again, and every head whipped around and walked Marcus. Flanked by two agents who looked like refrigerators in dark suits, they were a frame, and Marcus was the picture. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Chad Hayes' whole legal career, and he moved with a cold, focused intent. He was the after, the result of the life Walter had fought for. Judge Sloan banged her gavel. "This is a court of law. Who are you?" "The court is in session." But Marcus didn't stop. He walked past the gallery, past the stunned face of Trevor Vance, and stopped just before the bar. Hayes puffed up. "Your Honor, I demand this man be removed." Marcus finally spoke, his voice cutting through the murmuring like a razor. "Apologies for the interruption. Your Honor." Pulled out that small black leather wallet, flipped it open, and the name dropped like a hammer on marble. Special Agent Marcus Jennings. A Federal Bureau of Investigation. The courtroom went dead silent. Vance, sitting in the front row, went pale, sickly green. His smugness vaporized, replaced by a cold, primal fear. Hayes, however, was just indignant. "Your Honor, this is outrageous. He's trying to intimidate the court." Marcus just turned his head slightly and fixed Hayes with a look of quiet, analytical gaze so cold Hayes actually flinched. "Mr. Hayes, you might want to sit down. My business here today concerns you as well." Then came the full reveal. "Your Honor, I am here on behalf of the United States Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division, conducting an active federal investigation." "Operation Sandtrap," Marcus announced, projecting his voice to the jury. "We have reason to believe the witness on the stand, Officer Trevor Vance, has just committed multiple counts of perjury in this courtroom. Perjury that directly relates to our federal case. Furthermore, the defendant, Mr. Walter Jennings, is not a suspect. He is a material witness in our investigation. He has been for 6 months. Chaos." The jury was wide-eyed. Lena Chavez's jaw dropped. Walter, on the stand, just let out the breath he'd been holding since the slap. Perjury. A witness to what, Agent? Sloan demanded, her face thunderous. "A pattern and practice of corruption, extortion, and civil rights violations originating from Southwood Station. An organization which we allege Officer Vance is a key member of." Hayes stammered, "This is... You have no proof. You're doing this for your father?" Marcus allowed a small, dangerous smile to touch his lips. "Mr. Hayes, you're right. I shouldn't be interrupting. I should be letting this play out. But you see, when Officer Vance took the stand and lied about the body cam, he did more than just lie to this court. He lied to a federal court by proxy, because his testimony here was meant to discredit my witness. That's called witness tampering, Mr. Hayes, and that," he nodded to the 2 refrigerators agents moving into position, "is a federal offense. Your Honor, the United States government is asserting primacy. We are unsealing the federal indictment against Officer Trevor Vance, and we have an arrest warrant for him right now," Vance screamed, jumping to his feet. "No, this is a setup. My word against his." "The U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida disagrees," Marcus stated, calmly holding up a small silver thumb drive. "You see, Frank, your file wasn't corrupted by a malfunction. It was intentionally and very poorly erased. But the audio buffer still caught the first 30 seconds. 30 seconds is a long time, Frank. Long enough to hear you call my father a boy. Long enough to hear him clearly say, 'Am I being detained?' And it was certainly long enough to hear the sound of the smack, the one before he resisted, the one before he lunged for your gun." Vance looked like he was going to vomit. Marcus stepped closer, his voice dropping, and the best part, Frank, the part you really wanted to erase. "Is what you were doing 10 minutes before you met my father?" Marcus looked back at the judge. "I request a 5-minute recess so that I may place Officer Vance under arrest for conspiracy, extortion, and the intimidation of a federal witness. My father." Judge Sloan looked utterly floored for the first time that day, but she banged the gavel. "Recess. In my chambers now. Mr. Hayes, Ms. Chavez, and you, Agent Jennings now." As she swept out, Vance tried to bolt for the side door. The two agents they'd been waiting for that exact move converged. It was over in seconds. They didn't use force, just cold professional efficiency. Click, click. The sound of the handcuffs was the loudest thing in the room. Marcus watched for a moment, then turned. He finally looked at his father, who was still sitting stunned on the witness stand. The mask dissolved, just for a second. "Hey, Pop," Marcus said, walking over. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was a mess." Walter looked at his son, and a slow, proud smile spread across his face. "You always did know how to make an entrance, boy." In the chambers, Judge Sloan was tapping a pen, her robes off, revealing a simple black dress, and she was furious. Agent Jennings. That was without question the most unprofessional, theatrical, and frankly dangerous stunt I have ever seen pulled in my courtroom. "What in God's name do you think you were doing?" Marcus stood unfazed. "With all due respect, Judge, my actions were necessary and proportional. We had an active federal witness, my father, being railroaded by a compromised prosecutor. Based on the perjured testimony of the primary target of a federal RICO investigation, I acted to prevent a miscarriage of justice and to secure our target." He placed a slim binder on her desk. "This isn't about an assault case, Judge. It's about this." Sloan opened the binder and her eyes widened as she scanned the summary. "Operation Sandtrap has been active for 18 months. We're investigating a criminal enterprise being run out of Southwood Station's systematic evidence tampering, bribery, and coordinating with known narcotics traffickers. This goes all the way up. We also have an active investigation into the DAS office, specifically Mr. Hayes, for a pattern of declining to prosecute cases originating from that station, despite overwhelming evidence. The quiet, retired history teacher had been the key. "You know what history teachers and postmen do, Judge?" Marcus said. "They observe. They see patterns." He saw Vance's meetings. He saw the handoffs with Slider Manny. He took notes. He thought he was just telling his son, the government man, about the bad things he saw. They found out he was talking. They thought he was an internal affairs snitch. So they tried to send a message. That slap was just intimidation. But Vance messed up. He had an ego. He tried to flip the script, discredit the witness by giving him a criminal record. And Mr. Hayes, you fast-tracked this personally. You wanted a conviction. You wanted to help your friend Vance put the old man in his place. You were enabling a criminal conspiracy. Sloan closed the binder, looking tired. "This is a disaster." "Tsk, a cleanup, Judge," Marcus corrected her. "Dismiss this case with prejudice. Order a DA Hayes to remain here. We have a few more questions for him." Sloan looked at Hayes, her eyes filled with contempt. "Barry, you are a disgrace to this office. Get back in that courtroom and sit in the gallery." "Don't you dare move," Vance broke quickly. Nolan, seeing his 20 years of freedom vanishing, broke even faster. They gave up Sergeant Ben Travis. Who ran the evidence locker swap? Lieutenant Gary Stone, the precinct commander who organized the Blue Flu, when the whole patrol division called in sick so Manny's trucks could move product. And Chief Deputy DA Lawrence Bell, the firewall who buried the problem cases. Within 48 hours, the entire criminal infrastructure was decapitated. The federal trial was 3 months later. Walter Jennings, the anchor, the soul of the case, took the stand again. The defense, they tried to tear him apart, painted Marcus as an overzealous Fed driven by a personal vendetta, and Walter as a senile old man, the opposing lawyer. He was smooth, condescending, asking Walter if he was just scared and called his powerful son to get him. Walter looked at the lawyer, then at the defendants, sitting there in their expensive suits, looking bored. "Mr. Pruitt," Walter said, his voice quiet, resonating across the federal room. "I served this country. I taught its history for 40 years. I raised a son. I am a quiet man. You talk about dramatic, ... There is nothing dramatic about walking to a store for milk. There is nothing convenient about a 250-pound man with a gun and a badge calling me a boy and breaking my face because I didn't show him the fear he wanted. This is not about my son. He is just the man who turned on the light. This is about them, the cockroaches who ran when the light came on, I didn't pick a fight. I survived a fight I never asked for. And I am here to tell the truth. Because on my street, for the first time in 10 years, people are smiling again. That is the only convenience I care about. The jury looked at the defendants with open disgust. They deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty. All counts. The sentences were harsh as they should be. Stone got 30 years. Travis got 25. Bell, the lawyer who sold his oath, got 20. Vance, for his cooperation, got 12. Hayes got 8. It was a total, complete, necessary sweep. Outside the federal courthouse, Marcus stood at the podium. "Today is not a victory," he said. "It's a restoration. This operation has shown that the system, while vulnerable to corruption, is also capable of curing itself. No one, no matter their title or their badge, is above the law." He finished his statement and walked through the parting crowd to where his father was waiting, holding his hat. "So," Walter said, putting a hand on his son's shoulder, "Operation Sandtrap? Sounds fancy." "We did good work, Pop," Marcus corrected him, putting an arm around his father's shoulders. "Now, I think I'm going to take you home. I hear Lena's dropping off another one of those pecan pies." As they walked down the steps, an old neighbor shouted, "God bless you, Mr. Jennings." Walter, the retired teacher, the quiet hero, he just tipped his hat. And for the first time in a long time, the scales of justice on his street felt truly balanced. Trevor Vance thought he was just slapping an old man who didn't know his place. But he didn't realize he was slapping the father of the one man who could, and would take down his entire empire. So, here's my question to you. Was the system's cure strong enough? Do you think those sentences were truly fair compensation for the years of pain and the broken trust they inflicted on that community? And what about Mr. Hayes? Was 8 years enough for a prosecutor who willingly enabled criminal activity? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, because this story, it makes you think about courage, justice, and what it truly means to be a servant of the public. If you love stories where arrogance gets what it deserves, hit that like button. And subscribe for more incredible real-life dramas just like this one.